Alright, so now we're going to solve an exponential equation, but we're gonna need to use a logarithm. We can still do all of this without a calculator, okay? We're just gonna have to use a logarithm to isolate the exponent, which is where the variable is. So when you're approaching this, your goal is to isolate the factor or base that contains the exponent. All right, you want to isolate that entire piece. So you have to remove the 7 and the -8. And it's order of operations. So we subtract 7 first, then we divide by -8. And in doing so, this is where I am, and I'm going to divide by that -8. And now we're here, which is going to turn into 14 to the -5p equals 83/8. Don't pay attention, don't worry about the right side at the moment. Okay, now your goal is we need to isolate this exponent, okay? And you're gonna have to isolate the entire thing, -5p. I guess you could use some properties to just isolate p, but it's easier to just deal with the -5p as is now until you're more comfortable. So at this stage, we're going to use something we learned yesterday where we have to use a logarithm. So the only way to isolate -5p is to introduce a logarithm, because there's no way we can write 14 in the same base as 83/8. It's just not possible. 14 has two factors, 2 and 7, 1 and 14. Neither, 14 is not a perfect power, so we can't rewrite it like we did with 64s and 2s and 8s and 16s, or 27s and 81s and 243s. So this is when the log has to come into play. So we're going to take the log of both sides like we did yesterday. And when I take the logarithm of both sides in red, right, then I can use this power property for the logarithm, where I pull that exponent, -5p, out and make it a coefficient, right? So once I pull that out, I'm almost done, right? Here, -5p times log of 14 equals log of 83/8. So to solve for p, usually what happens is at this stage, students divide both sides of the equation by log 14. Totally fine, but if they did that, then they need to divide by -5. So what happens is they end up with this, real quick, log of 83/8 divided by log of 14, and then divided again by log of 5. This is a fraction within a fraction, and you can't leave a fraction within a fraction the way this is written, and students kind of get a little overwhelmed and don't know what to do. So if you look here, -5p times log 14, that's all multiplication. It's the commutative property. So you're allowed to divide by -5 and log 14 simultaneously, and that's what I recommend you do, because it simplifies to 1 on the left, and you're just left with p now. P equals log of 83/8 divided by -5 log 14. I know that this right side right here, log 83 divided by 8 divided by -5 log 14. I know that looks like a logarithm property where you can kind of make it smaller. You cannot. This is not the quotient property, right? This is one logarithm value divided by another logarithm value. It doesn't condense, right? So this is your exact answer down here in black, right? P is equal to that. And if we needed to approximate that, then we can throw it in the calculator the way I showed you before. Just be careful. When you're writing it in your calculator, I highly recommend you do it in stages until you're very comfortable. Just when you hit that first log key on your calculator and type in 83/8, make sure you close the grouping symbol, okay? And then when you hit that division bar right here in your calculator, the best thing from here is, before you type in -5 after you hit divide, open up a grouping symbol in your calculator, then type in -5 log 14, and then close that grouping symbol. That way, after you hit the division button, if you have the denominator grouped, it's going to divide by the entire denominator, which is what you want. If you don't group it, your calculator is likely to divide the numerator by -5, and then multiply that value by log 14, which is not what you need to do. So you definitely practice this. Make sure you can get approximately -0.177 so you know how to use your calculator. try to avoid doing this here. And again, this property, this is the quotient property for logs. When it's a log of a fraction, then you can expand it into the difference of two logs here. That is not what's happening on the right side here. Log 3/8 divided by log 14. That's not the same property. And then if you have any questions about a potential different method moving from maybe from this line down to this line, there's a different way to do it. Instead of taking base 10 log of both sides, you can do it with base 14, but if you have to approximate your value, most of you are not going to be able to approximate that in your calculator, especially the scientific calculators. They don't let you type in log base 14. So the left method is going to be your method of choice.